My friends, tonight I want to talk about something simple but powerful, something that has carried generations through hardship, lifted nations from despair, and sparked movements that reshaped the world. It is the quiet force that begins within us, the spark that turns doubt into determination and fear into courage. It is belief. Because every new beginning, whether it's a new chapter in our own lives, a new dream we dare to chase, or a new journey we embark upon, always starts with the decision to believe. Believe that we are capable of more. Believe that change is possible. Believe that, no matter how many times we stumble, we can rise again. This belief is not blind hope. It is not sitting back and wishing for things to get better. It is the conviction that if we take that first step, if we have the courage to keep going, then tomorrow can be brighter than today. Belief is the foundation of every transformation. It is the quiet force that rests deep within the human spirit, the voice that whispers in our moments of doubt, telling us that we are more than our circumstances and stronger than the obstacles before us. History has shown us time and again that the greatest changes, both personal and collective, were never born out of certainty, but out of belief. Before any action is taken, before any progress is made, there must first be a conviction inside the heart that says change is possible. Without that conviction, even the brightest ideas remain dormant, the greatest talents remain hidden, and the boldest dreams remain unfulfilled. Belief is the soil in which all transformation grows, and without it, nothing new can take root. Think of every innovator, every leader, every ordinary person who dared to do something extraordinary. They did not begin with a guarantee of success. They began with belief. The Wright brothers believed that human beings could fly, long before science had fully caught up with their imagination. Martin Luther King Jr. believed in a dream of equality long before it became law or reality. A single mother believes she can provide a better future for her child, even when her present struggles weigh heavily upon her. In every one of these stories, belief is not a passive state of mind. It is an act of courage. It is an act of vision. It is the refusal to accept the world as it is, and the determination to shape it into what it can be. When we talk about transformation, it is easy to focus on the external results, the success, the recognition, the achievement. But the truth is, transformation begins in the unseen places. It starts in the quiet decision to trust in oneself, to hold on to hope even when nothing around you suggests it will work out. This is why belief is so powerful. It does not require the perfect conditions. It does not wait for permission. It does not need applause or validation. Belief thrives even in uncertainty. In fact, it often grows strongest when everything else seems to be against it. Belief also shapes how we see challenges. Without belief, obstacles look like dead ends. With belief, those same obstacles become stepping stones. A setback is no longer a sign to give up, but a lesson that prepares us for what lies ahead. Belief changes our relationship with failure. It tells us that failure is not final, that it is simply a part of the journey towards something greater. And when we understand this, we stop running from the hard moments and begin to face them with resilience. We realize that every test, every trial is refining us, strengthening us, and moving us closer to our purpose. But belief is not only about the self. It is also about what we believe in others. Transformation rarely happens in isolation. Every movement, every community, every lasting change is built on the faith that people, when given the chance, can rise to the occasion. When leaders believe in their people, they unlock potential that might otherwise remain dormant. When teachers believe in their students, they ignite a confidence that can carry them far beyond the classroom. When friends and families believe in one another, they create bonds that sustain them through the darkest of times. Belief is contagious. It spreads from one person to the next, building momentum, creating energy, until what once seemed impossible begins to feel inevitable. There is also a deeper reason why belief is at the foundation of transformation. It is because belief directs our actions. What we hold to be true about ourselves determines the choices we make, the risks we are willing to take, and the persistence we bring to the journey. If we believe we are powerless, then we will never try. If we believe we are capable, then even the most difficult path becomes one we are willing to walk. Belief shapes not only what we see, but also what we are willing to reach for. And over time, those choices, those small steps, those moments of courage, accumulate into transformation. Consider the story of someone standing at the edge of a new chapter in life, unsure of the road ahead. Without belief, they might never take that first step. They might remain stuck in fear, in comfort, in what is known. But with belief, that first step becomes possible. And once that step is taken, the second becomes easier, and the third even more so. Before long, what once seemed unreachable begins to draw closer. This is the pattern of every transformation. It starts not with certainty, but with a single act of belief. Belief also teaches us patience. Transformation does not happen overnight. It requires persistence, endurance, and the ability to hold onto the vision even when the progress is invisible. Belief is what sustains us in the waiting, what fuels us in the slow seasons, what keeps us moving when the results are not yet clear. It is the reminder that just because we cannot yet see the fruit does not mean the roots are not growing. Just because the change is not yet visible does not mean it is not underway. Belief is the thread that carries us through the unseen parts of the journey until the transformation finally becomes real. On a larger scale, belief is what drives societies forward. Nations are not built only on laws and systems, but on the shared conviction that tomorrow can be better than today. Generations before us believed in freedom, in justice, in equality, long before those ideals were realized. They carried that belief through struggle, through sacrifice, and through doubt. And because they did, the world changed. That is the power of belief at work. Not just in individuals, but in communities and in the course of history itself. And yet, belief is not something that comes without effort. It must be chosen. It must be nurtured. In moments of fear, in times of failure, in seasons of disappointment, belief must be held onto with both hands. It is easy to lose faith when the evidence is against us. It is easy to doubt when the road is long. But belief is not about ease. It is about conviction. It is about choosing to stand firm even when the storm rages. It is about holding onto the vision of transformation even when the reality has not yet caught up. At its core, belief is both deeply personal and profoundly universal. It begins with the individual decision to trust in oneself and in something greater. But it extends outward, connecting us to one another, shaping our communities, and fueling the changes that define generations. Every transformation, whether in the life of one person or in the life of a nation, begins here. With belief, challenges become opportunities when guided by belief. Every life, no matter how successful or inspiring it may seem from the outside, is filled with difficulties, setbacks, and trials that test the limits of human endurance. But the difference between those who are broken by challenges and those who are built by them is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of belief. Belief reshapes how we interpret the obstacles in our way. Instead of seeing them as barriers meant to stop us, we begin to see them as teachers meant to prepare us. Instead of seeing hardship as punishment, we begin to see it as preparation. This shift in perspective changes everything. It does not make the challenge disappear, but it transforms how we walk through it. When belief guides us, we stop measuring life by how smooth the road is and begin measuring it by how strong we become on the journey. Every obstacle becomes a classroom, failure becomes feedback, disappointment becomes direction. The struggle that once made us question our worth now becomes the evidence of our resilience. Belief reminds us that the challenge is not a signal that we are unworthy of our dream, but rather proof that the dream is big enough to stretch us, to shape us, to call out a version of ourselves we have not yet discovered. Think about the countless people who have faced overwhelming odds and still managed to rise. Nelson Mandela endured decades in prison, yet he emerged not with bitterness, but with a vision to reconcile and rebuild. Helen Keller, born without sight or hearing, chose to believe that her life could still carry meaning, and through that belief, she became a symbol of perseverance for millions. These stories are not defined by the absence of difficulty. They are defined by the belief that difficulty could be turned into destiny. Without belief, the prison remains a prison. With belief, it becomes the soil in which a leader is formed. Without belief, disability becomes limitation. With belief, it becomes a platform for courage. Challenges also reveal the depth of our convictions. It is easy to speak of faith, of courage, of hope, when the sun is shining and the road is clear. But when storms come, when dreams are delayed, when the outcome is uncertain, it is belief that is tested. And in that testing, something remarkable happens. We discover strength we never knew we had. We discover resilience we never thought we could carry. We discover that what once seemed impossible is now part of our story. In this way, challenges are not meant to diminish us. They are meant to draw out the greatness that lies dormant within us. Belief also transforms the way we take risks. A person without belief will shy away from difficulty because the fear of failure feels overwhelming. But a person with belief will step forward into the unknown, not because they are fearless, but because they know that even in failure, there is growth. Even in loss, there is learning. This mindset changes the entire game. Every attempt becomes valuable, every setback becomes useful, every moment of struggle becomes a seed for the future. The question is no longer, what if I fail, but rather, what will I become if I try? That question can only be asked when belief is alive in the heart. Belief turns pain into fuel. Many of the most groundbreaking achievements in history were born not out of ease but out of struggle. A community devastated by tragedy chooses to rebuild, and in that rebuilding they create bonds stronger than before. A person told they will never succeed chooses to persist, and in that persistence they discover a purpose larger than themselves. This is the quiet miracle of belief. It does not erase the difficulty, but it redeems it. It takes what was meant to break us and uses it to build us. It turns our scars into stories, our failures into wisdom, and our hardships into hope for others. Challenges guided by belief also sharpen our vision. When everything is going well, it is easy to become complacent, to settle, to stop reaching. But when difficulties arise, they force us to clarify what truly matters. Belief then acts as the compass, pointing us forward, reminding us that the struggle is not wasted if it keeps us aligned with our greater purpose. In this way, challenges strip away the distractions, the noise, the trivial pursuits, and they reveal the core of who we are and what we stand for. With belief, the challenge becomes the mirror that reflects back to us not our weakness, but our potential. On a deeper level, challenges unify us when we face them together. Communities often discover their greatest strength in moments of shared struggle. Whether it is a nation recovering from crisis, a family enduring hardship, or a team fighting against the odds, belief creates a collective resilience. It reminds us that we are not alone, that together we can carry more than we ever imagined. And when people see that shared belief in action, they too begin to rise, to carry hope, to find courage in the midst of their own challenges. What begins as one person's conviction can become the foundation for many people's transformation. It is also true that challenges can be the birthplace of creativity. When the path is blocked, belief pushes us to look for another way. When the usual solutions fail, belief tells us there must be a better one. Entire industries, inventions, and movements have come from people who, faced with difficulty, refused to give up. Instead, they allowed belief to guide them into innovation, into discovery, into breakthroughs that would never have been possible if the challenge had not forced them to think differently. Belief is what turns the frustration of limitation into the spark of imagination. But perhaps the most powerful way challenges become opportunities is in the way they shape our character. Success achieved without struggle rarely lasts. But when we are tested, when we endure, when we continue forward despite the odds, we become people of substance, people of depth, people with stories worth telling. Belief ensures that we do not emerge from challenges bitter or broken, but better. It ensures that the scars we carry become symbols of survival, reminders not of how fragile we are, but of how strong we have become. In this sense, belief is not only about reaching a destination. It is about who we become on the journey. There will always be voices that say challenges are a sign to quit, that hardship means the dream is too big or the journey too long. But belief tells a different story. It tells us that challenges are invitations. They are opportunities disguised in difficulty. They are the world's way of asking, how badly do you want this? How deeply do you believe in it? And every time we choose to persist, every time we choose to rise, we are answering that question not with words, but with action. When we look back at our lives, it is not the easy days that shape us most. It is the moments when we could have given up but didn't. The moments when the challenge seemed overwhelming, but we chose to keep going. Those are the turning points. Those are the defining chapters. And in each of those moments, belief was the guiding force that turned the obstacle into opportunity, the hardship into hope, the challenge into transformation. Belief unites us to create a future greater than our fears. Human history is filled with moments where fear could have paralyzed us, divided us, or held us back from progress. Fear whispers that we are too different from one another, too weak to face the storm, too small to make a difference. Fear builds walls between people, it magnifies our doubts, and it convinces us to cling to what is safe instead of reaching for what is possible. But belief works in the opposite way. Belief draws us together. Belief tells us that despite our differences, we share a common destiny. Belief reminds us that if we stand side by side, we can carry burdens that no one could carry alone. When belief takes root in a community, in a nation, in a generation, it creates a force more powerful than fear could ever be. Belief is what makes strangers into neighbors and neighbors into allies. It gives us the ability to look at someone who does not look like us, speak like us, or pray like us, and still see in them the same spark of dignity and possibility. Without belief, fear would define those differences as threats. With belief, those same differences become strengths. Diversity becomes not a weakness to overcome, but a gift to be celebrated. This is how belief unites us. It creates a sense of shared humanity that fear cannot erase. When people come together under the banner of belief, extraordinary things happen. Think of movements that changed the course of history, the fight for civil rights, the struggle for independence across nations, the pursuit of equality for those long denied it. None of these moments were free of fear. The dangers were real, the risks were heavy, the consequences could be devastating. But what carried people forward was belief. Belief that justice was stronger than oppression. Belief that freedom was worth the cost. Belief that tomorrow could hold a better reality than today. That collective conviction is what gave courage to march, to protest, to stand, and to endure. Fear divides and weakens, but belief multiplies and strengthens. Belief also creates unity by reminding us that the future is not built by one person alone. It is built by the combined hope and effort of many. Fear isolates us, convincing us to retreat into ourselves, to focus only on our own survival. But belief expands our vision. It tells us that our destiny is tied to the destiny of others, that my well-being is bound to yours and yours to mine. This shared responsibility is what builds strong communities and resilient nations. When belief fuels our actions, we stop asking only what is best for me, and we start asking what is best for us. That shift changes families, workplaces, cities, and entire societies. Belief is also the antidote to the paralysis that fear brings. Fear thrives on uncertainty, on chaos, on the unknown. It whispers that because we cannot control everything, we should not even try. But belief pushes us to step forward despite uncertainty. It is not blind to the dangers or unaware of the risks, but it refuses to let them dictate the future. And when people walk forward together in belief, they find courage in one another. The load feels lighter, the fear grows quieter, and the impossible begins to feel achievable. This shared courage has been the engine of progress throughout history, carrying humanity from one age to the next. In our own lives, we can see how belief creates unity in smaller, personal ways. A family facing hardship chooses to believe that they will overcome it together, and that belief strengthens their bond. A community recovering from disaster believes in its ability to rebuild, and that shared conviction turns devastation into resilience. Even within a team striving toward a difficult goal, it is the collective belief in one another that often determines the outcome more than skill or talent alone. When people know that others believe in them, they rise to the occasion. And when people unite around a shared belief, they accomplish far more than they ever could alone. Belief also has the power to silence the lies of fear. Fear says we are defined by our past mistakes. Belief says we are defined by the future we choose to build. Fear says the world is broken beyond repair. Belief says that while the task is great, together we have the capacity to heal, to restore, to renew. Fear says that divisions are permanent. Belief says that reconciliation is possible. Each of us has to decide which voice we will listen to. But when we collectively choose belief, we create momentum that fear cannot withstand. There is also a generational power in belief. When one generation believes in a better future, they pass that vision on to the next. Children who grow up in households filled with fear often carry those same anxieties into their own lives. But children who grow up in households filled with belief inherit a different kind of legacy. They inherit resilience. They inherit hope. They inherit the conviction that no matter how dark the world may seem, light can break through. And when belief is passed from generation to generation, it creates a foundation for progress that lasts far beyond the lifespan of any individual. Belief unites us across boundaries of time as well as space. It connects us to those who came before, who fought and sacrificed so that we might enjoy freedoms they only dreamed of. And it connects us to those who will come after, who will inherit the world we leave behind. Fear is always short-sighted, concerned only with the immediate threat, the immediate danger. Belief, on the other hand, is expansive. It sees the long arc of history and understands that we are part of a much larger story. That awareness humbles us, but it also inspires us. It reminds us that we have a responsibility not only to ourselves, but to the future. When fear dominates, people retreat into silence, into division, into inaction. But when belief leads, people speak, people stand, people act. Belief gives birth to movements, to innovations, to breakthroughs that reshape what is possible. It allows us to face the uncertainty of tomorrow not with trembling hands, but with steady hearts. It does not deny the presence of fear, but it refuses to let fear have the final word. Together, united by belief, people can accomplish what once seemed unthinkable. In the end, belief unites us because it taps into something deeper than circumstance. It is not tied to wealth or power or privilege. It is not bound by geography or culture or language. It speaks to something universal in the human spirit, the desire to belong, to matter, to contribute, to build. That universality is why belief can cross oceans and mountains, why it can ignite movements in distant lands, why it can inspire generations yet unborn. Fear may always be present, but belief is what ensures fear does not control the future.